Hello and welcome to more videos about Lorcana. Here is a very burnt out person who is still very much enjoying the game though. And we came back from Bologna recently. Came back on the Monday, so it's only a couple of days of rest really. And yeah, I'll admit I've played a lot of Lorcana now at this point. And in this video, I wanted to cover a couple of things. I wanted to just sort of talk about the deck and talk about how it went on the day, and then in the other half talk about the actual event and my opinions on it and sort of what really how I felt. I'll admit I'm always quite a positive person. I think I had a good time. I had a good time overall with friends and getting to see loads of Italy. Italy's lovely to always visit. But I think the event, we could really be, as players, asking for a bit more than we were given. But, you know, I'll get into that, and I've got a few different people's testimonial type things as well, and I'm going to talk through all my opinions on that. But firstly, we'll just talk through the deck and the day. So we went 5-3 in the end, which was not the desired result. It was to win an in, you had to do 6-2 on the day one, and we were alive to the last round. We were 5-2 going into the last round, and we got another mirror and managed to sadly lose that one as well. We won the Dyro and everything, but just sometimes, you know, player played very well, and sometimes it comes down to other factors, I think, rather than die roll, which can be quite interesting for the Blurple mirrors. But I feel like the person with the majority of the Elsas and the Hades will come out on top, or, you know, if you both have Elsa and Hades, then maybe it will come down to who's singing second star. And we lost the winning in game at 1-2. But start throughout the entire day, we started around 1 against green blue, and it took forever. I mean, I'll talk about not the actual game, sorry, I mean the event. I'll talk about the Ravensburger play hub at the end of this, but like I said, I'll just get through the gameplay elements first. But we've sat down against opponent. We didn't, of course, we went through that. We didn't have a player briefing before the event started as well. It was just your round one opponent was sat down, then they did a bit of talk overhead, and then you got into the game. So round one ended up being green blue, and game one I got beyond stomped. I thought it was really upsetting. I've played a few set 9 events now, and round one I was like, green blue, like I feel like Blurple, I'm on the draw, so maybe I can squeak one of the wins in here. And game one, it was, I think they played 4 Clarabelles going into the shift turn on the 5 ink turn, and they got it off into your welcomes, into nothing ever stuck. I never found one Hades in that game one, and I was like, oh my lord, this can't be how my day goes. This is terrible. So game one, straight away I was like put into a bit of a bad headspace. Game two, we managed to win on the play, like, you know, if you just get Elsa and you exert and then you take out the Clarabelle. Prioritize getting the Dumbos down so you can keep drawing through and slamming stuff on the board. And then game 3 on the draw, I was like, right, I say just Blurple on the play versus green blue never feels like a bad matchup. Even if you don't get that Elsa, you can just ramp heavy and get to your Hades and stuff like that. Monstro and all the other bigger characters, which we were aiming to do with this deck. We were trying to weight it a bit more at the top end with Elsa and Monstro. Mainly for green blue, actually, to be honest. I was quite scared of it. But game 3, I was like, okay, I'm on the draw, and this matchup's kind of bad for me on the draw. I'll probably lose this. They get the whole setup, the whole ramp, and then they never manage to get the Clarabelle shift off, and they're doing visions and develop, and just one of them unfortunate games where Clarabelle wasn't in like the top 30 cards of their deck. So that's kind of rough for them. And it kind of really, though, set the mood for how set 9 has felt for me at bigger events, like play draw, and then if not play draw, it's basically like, is your opponent going to brick, or are they just not going to do their thing when they're on the play? And that felt kind of rough because, you know, essentially if they found the Clarabelle, we'd be playing a game of Lorcana, but because they never did, they never found the 7 cost. Just over, and I managed to get a 2-1 win at round 1. So that was, you know, that was what it was. Then, of course, the Ravensburger play hub didn't really work, so we had to go stand in a queue to manually input it all, which took forever again. Like, so each round as well took a long time after playing a not very enjoyable game as well. I think that my opponent was lovely, and we had a good chat in the queue, and that was all great. But the gameplay itself was like, okay, this just feels like the have you got it? Like, it's kind of like playing top trumps or snap or something. Like, do you have the card that wins you the game? No. Okay, cool. Well, we'll go on to the next game then. So we did that, and yeah, it was sort of, and it took for a long time to get the next round up. And the next one was Amber Steel, and I was like, again, like, it's just a really rough matchup. I think that matchup's even worse than the green blue one, of course. And we lost the die roll, and yeah, just on the play, like on the first game on the draw, figuring out it was Amber Steel, you still mulligan for your low drops and everything. Got completely rolled over. Game 2, managed to get a win on the play, and then game on the draw, and it was about 4 seconds in maybe. They were like 5 characters wide, and I was like, "Yeah, we know what happens. You just win the game. There's no way you have 2 Jim Deere bodyguards out, and I have just ramped on this turn, so we're gonna scoop and go to the net and call that round for yours." And opponent again, really lovely thing, a really lovely opponent, really lovely guy. Yeah, just really nice person, but like again, it just felt like the game was more of a formality than it was like actually playing a card game, which felt kind of rough. And again, we go into the player hub breaking. We didn't have to join a queue anymore. Most people figured out how to do it, like if you talk to a judge or something like that. But again, the player hub's not working. So we're playing these games which I don't particularly find that joyful, and we're spending a lot of time in between each round having to input the data into this app that doesn't really work that well either. And then going from there, I can't remember the next matchups in order, but the main losses we had was we lost to an Amber Steel, we lost to a Blurple Mirror as well, where we missed ramp game 1, and then next game we just generally didn't have it, and they're a very good player and they managed to beat us. And then the final game as well, the winning, and we lost to a Blurple Mirror. But the Blurple Mirror is like throughout the day, I think we did the good chunk of those wins were in there. We actually they only played against 3 decks the entire day, which was Blurple, 2 Amber Steels. We beat an Amber Steel on the play 2-1. That was a very lovely opponent, and we beat a Green Blue at the start. So when Green Blue, Amber Steel, then Blurples for the rest of the day, except for 1 Amber Steel mixed in there as well over the 8 rounds. And the Blurple Mirrors, again, they just felt kind of some people had different builds. Some people had some cooler builds with like Scrooge and stuff like that, but just felt like the games were a bit more like we're just doing the formality of like some of them. I lost one. I got 2-0'd by 1. The game 1 missed a ramp, and then I won one as well where I won it on the play, and then my opponent missed ramp on the game on the draw, and it was just like, okay, we're just going through the motions here. And sometimes card games can get like that, I think, especially when you've played a lot of them. The innovation and the deck building's less seen. I mean, it was very interesting to watch all the Dogs games and stuff like that. I don't know how much of an underground deck Dogs has been, but that was sort of one of the decks that had one of the best conversion rates and one of the best plays over the weekend. So that looked like probably, in my opinion, the strongest deck to bring to the event. But for myself, this was the first time I'd ever brought like the top meta deck for the room. I usually tend to go a little bit, a couple tiers down or something like that, just to make sure I'm not targeted or I'm not going to be doing mirrors. And that's kind of where my fascination and love for Sapphire Steel always came with. It was a deck that definitely could win the event, but it was never hitting the tier 1. It was always tier 2, tier 1.5 level, so it wasn't really being targeted because there was no point of targeting it, and the mirrors were going to be less common. So that was the kind of deck I was going to play. But for this event, I went with Blurple, because I just generally at this point couldn't see any other choice. Even Dogs and Amber Steel, they seem great choices, but I still, to me, obviously it just feels like Blurple is way higher there, even if you have to do mirrors for majority of the day, and you just basically who's come out on top of the mirrors at the end of it. So gameplay wise, I didn't particularly enjoy playing this deck for the entire day. It felt fine. I think maybe I've gone a little bit too wide and trying to cover too many things. I think 4 Basil is generally a requirement. I was aiming to play 3 Finders Keepers and 1 second star, and just always keep my opponent off second star. But in my last round, that was the thing that I lost to. I just, eventually you're going to run out of Hades, Elsa, and even Bell or Into the Unknown or whatever cards to stop them from singing the Into the Unknown, and they will eventually get it off, even if it's like a few turns later. So I think 2 second star, 2 Finders Keepers is probably the standard as well, and 4 Basil just felt way more important, even if it means you have to lose one of them Rafikis. I'll admit, against those aggressive decks, you're not going to be winning them more because you run 3 Rafikis. I think the percentage of you winning more because you have 3 is probably minor. Maybe a bit more helpful into Purple Steel, but into Amber Steel, yeah, it felt like, that game you just try and win it on the play and on the draw. You're probably going to lose, just the way the game is this set. So yeah, the kind of the changes I'd make around, maybe drop one of the big Elsas. Not hugely impactful. In testing, it's sort of been fine. I've always quite liked 2-cost Elsa, and even in the mirror, sometimes it's just slamming down the biggest characters that you possibly can each turn. So yeah, altogether, this is sort of fairly fine. I think just a couple tweaks, and I'll probably run the same thing at Store Champs as well. Just a very similar build that I have here. Iago, generally, I'm still a big supporter of that card. Of course, loads of people play Hypnotic Strength, loads of people play Hate for it, but Those are games I had. I had one game where I was on the draw and I missed ramp, but I had 2 Iagos in hand. And, you know, I played one, they got hypnotic strength. I played the other one, and they had no answer for it. And it just sat there. It cleaned up their genies. It meant that Elsa couldn't really do much because it could exert and then hit nothing, basically. And then we just kind of win the board back. We kind of make sure they didn't get any benefits from all of that ramp and win the game completely. So I'm sort of big believer in Iago as a strong card to play in the Blurple list, even if people are playing 4 hypnotic strengths. A lot of people are playing 3 now, so that's pretty good. But that's sort of covering everything on the deck and like the day. Like I say, I wrote in there, I don't think I'd run it again, but it's powerful. I think for store champs I probably would just run it again because it felt fine. It felt like it was a decent spread as well. Whereas whenever I played Amber Steel, it's like, oh, it's fine, but I need these conditions to be good for it to work. And I've been looking at dogs as well. I think most people have been looking at dogs. It feels fine, but it's like I need these conditions to be good. I need green, blue, and purple steel. If I played 5 rounds of green, blue, and purple steel as dogs, I probably would not be very happy. But if I played against Amber Steel and purple and Blurple all day with dogs, I'd probably be pretty happy because those are 2 good matchups for me. Whereas Blurple, it's felt a bit like, and the same with Amber Steel, like I just want to see Blurple all day if I play that deck. But with this deck, it's felt like, okay, everything's not great, but everything's not bad. The same way that Ruby Amethyst felt a few years ago, or a few sets ago, not years, well, probably about 1 year ago now. It's just fine into any room. It's playable. It's good. You can build it in every direction. You can maybe go, oh, this store champs, I bet there's going to be loads of Amber Steel, and put in some cards that help with that. Maybe up the 1-drops, or just put more disruption cards in there and more powerful but big bodies as well, like Ryder or something, or the Elsa one that has Challenger buff card. Like just anything like that, or maybe put more TikToks in for purple steel. You know, you can just build it in all those different directions. So it generally is probably the strongest deck right now, but it's not about its weaknesses. You know, we saw it have a 600 or so people turn up, and it's very small kind of like conversion rate even into top 8. There was only 1 in top 8, and I think because they were top seed, that really led into them having a very good run against some of the more aggressive decks. But altogether, yeah, I don't think I'd run it again. Probably would, especially for Sword Champs. Maybe not a DLC. I think for a DLC, I'd probably want to go for a more polarizing day and bring one of those Amber Steel or Dogs decks, because I'd be like, hey, I just need to see my matchups, and I can't be upset if I don't see those matchups. Whereas Blurple is like, you just take it and try your best, don't you, really? The same way that Ruby Amethyst used to be. But that's enough on the deck, and I sort of run with it, and yeah, everything I want to talk about. But I want to talk about the event, because for anyone who's lucky enough to go, like, I'm grateful I got to experience, and it was awesome to see all the players again that I see, and awesome to see everyone who like came up, said hello, and signed things. And we played Infinity on the Sunday, and there was like a few Kiwi players as well. I brought my own Kiwi built, and that was just fun, and like chatting to people, so that was just great. But I think though, criticism wise, and all of this will come from a place of love. I generally want the best for Lorcana, and I want the best for the game. Nothing I'm saying is going to come across as like hate filled, or oh yeah, this sucks and I hate this. It's none of it's supposed to appear like that. So if it does sound like that, that's not the vibe I'm going for. But I generally do have quite a few opinions on the event. I think we got a worse deal this time round. It did not fit. I've done I did 1 in the US, and then I did 3 in Europe, and I felt like this one, it felt like we just got a worse deal for what the event was. This is, again, not going to stop me attending more events. I still think it's good, but I think because I want the best for the game and I want the best for the community, I feel like we can try and do better. So the things to mention is, of course, the venue was the same venue as last year, but somehow it felt like it was a little bit subpar. I don't really know why. We were in the same venue, but we were in a different hall. We were the hall above. The toilet situation was not amazing. I felt it was like 2 smaller toilet areas for like 2,000 people or something like that. That wasn't particularly a joyful experience. And the prizing wall as well felt a bit strange. It felt like there was less to get this time round. I can't be guarantee myself that I'm saying that correctly, and that there was less this time round. But I know, I remember there was like shirts and stuff. I remember there was loads of different things you could get on that prize wall. But it felt like they had some really big weighted prizes, like a mat or an uncut sheet, and those things were great. But for most people, you know, you're just going to play and get like 500 tickets and then try and get something off the wall, aren't you? So all the really options you had were the Simba cards and stuff like that. I think I did a side event, I got 1,000 tickets, and we managed to get a card and a couple hats. But Yeah, I could be wrong with that, but the prize wall felt like it was a little bit less than we'd seen in the past. And just the venue in general did not feel Disney magical is the words that a lot of people have been telling me, because I asked a few people's opinions and I was like, I don't want to do a video where it comes across quite like I'm just being negative. I want to be quite critical, so if you've got any points, tell me. And a few things that came out for a few players that mentioned to me, I was going to say their names, but at this point I'm not going to. I think you're just going to have to trust me that you trust me that I respect these players, and they're giving me their honest opinions. But a few words that came out was that the Disney magic wasn't really there this time round. And I remember when the first time I went to Lille, like they put a really good effort in getting everything set up. We had the great Illuminaire in the middle, the great like statue thing, and people were taking photos with it. There was loads of banners. Just the stage where you like were doing the games on stream was a lot better. They had loads of different like areas to sit in as well, and I don't know, it just felt like the Disney magic was not as much there this time, and I feel that's a very valid thing for people to say. And the big looming thing that I think is really worth mentioning is that the Play Hub very much it didn't work. If I had bought that as a product, I would generally be asking for some sort of refund. Right now it doesn't work. Is like the most polite way to put it, like, and that's fine. I'm sure they can get it to a point where it works, but as of right now it really didn't. We even in the side events, we played the Infinity on Sunday. They ended up just dropping around. They gave us all a buy, so we got prize tickets for it. But it just because the app wasn't loading, it would not pair people up. It would take forever to load when it did work. And for the Infinity event, that felt kind of fine because it was like, oh, I'll just get my prize tickets, and I didn't really care about. I was probably playing to win anyway. I think most people were, but a lot of people did like side events where they did sealed events and they had to build a deck and then they get to play. Someone we stayed with only ended up doing like 2 rounds out of the 4 or 5 rounds that they were given because, you know, the app dropped around and then people gave up on the app and didn't want to play anymore, so they left. So it's like you built a sealed deck, which is like the fun part is that you build it and get to play it, but they didn't even get to do that because it went just a little bit haywire, and having to book everything through their like online thing didn't feel great, even for a pack rush. Like I could be remembering this wrong, but I remember last time it was go up to the till, bring your friend with you and say, hey, we want to do pack rush there. Cool, here's 2 packs, and the judge sits you down and you play it. But this one you had to book it all through this app, and it just ended up never really working half the time. And there was just pictures on Reddit of like giant queues of people, because I think a lot of people, I'm not of course I know about the whole thing of people just go on to do the pack rush to get the points, to get the tickets so they can get more stuff from the prize pool. It's like the most effective and easiest way for you to do it. I didn't do that. I was stuck in Infinity for the entire weekend, but I'm very aware that people are doing that, and that's why we got to see those big queues at Reddit of people waiting to do loads of pack rush. I don't think they were that excited to play pack rush, but they very much wanted their tickets for the prize. Well, and that kind of sucks because there are some people who do want to play pack rush and they do enjoy that format, and again, it's just, it doesn't feel very Disney magic, does it? But yeah, I'm going to keep using the Infinity event as the example. It's just the whole thing in general. And it's going to use the main event as well as the Infinity event, but for the main event especially, it's just, I think right now the format is fairly healthy. I think Blurple is taking up huge meta shares, but there are decks that beat it, and there are other options for you to play. The card pool is kind of small, so the innovation's not amazing, so I'm not particularly enjoying set 9 as of right now. It feels like, you know, very early on games are decided and you just sort of have to do formalities to see who's actually going to win, or hope they do like a major brick at some point. So for me personally, it's been playing a format I haven't particularly enjoyed too much. On top of that, the rounds take forever to pair because of the Ravensburger Play Hub, so it's sort of doing an experience that I'm not really loving as much, and having to wait longer to do it as well just felt a little bit rough. And I can admit that's something that's weighing on me as well, and that's not like I don't want it to come across and just basically me spew out negativity because I'm not having the best time. I'm sure loads of people are having the best time, and that's great. I still think Lorcana is amazing. Playing Infinity was fun to play with cards that I hadn't played with in a while. You know, it was interesting to go on the day one, like playing Hiram down after not having Hiram for so long, and singing Let the Storm from the turn 1 bell was just crazy as well. Like, oh, all these fun things again. That was great. Like, again, the game, like, I had moments of really, oh, I love this game. I can't stop playing this game. But into, yeah, the player hub was just not just not functioning, I think. And I didn't know if they had a backup option, but there was sort of no real jump to we're going to use the backup option, like we're going to just put it all on melee and just run it on melee. I think it must have been affecting people's store champs as well, because the Ravensburger Play Hub probably affects everyone at the same time. But yeah, it just felt like maybe the Disney magic really wasn't there on this one, and I'm hoping for Milwaukee they can really improve it a bit. The 8 rounds as well on day one meant that a lot of people really just weren't getting their like kind of, I don't know, money's worth with the entry. I think maybe day one should have been 9 or 10 rounds, and that's not to say making top cut is easier or making whatever easier or whatever. That's generally just, you'll find that a lot of players just want to play the game. Maybe they still want to get that Mulan or something like that. They just want to play the game. They don't care if they're at table 1 or at table 500, and that's absolutely fine. They just want to play. So giving them only 8 rounds choices to do that was, I think, not the best, when they could have increased it to 9 or 10. And I think we could have done that very functionally. I think we could have done that with the Ravensburger Play Hub, because it broke a lot and we had to wait a lot later and play a lot later. But if it was functioning, everything was great. I think you could fit definitely 9 or 10 rounds in, and then have a couple rounds for the Swiss the next day, and then you go into your top cut. Because just in my opinion, I know a lot of players just like to play. They bring their whatever deck, they bring their fun deck, they bring their better deck as well, and they just want to play games. Maybe they don't get to play much, and they're like, great, this is a chance for me to play really competitive high level Lorcana for X amount of rounds. Oh wait, I only get 8 rounds, because and if I don't make the cut, then I don't get to play the next day. So maybe it's that as well, but felt like it maybe needed a few more rounds. But overall, still so much that I enjoy about the game. I'm still not going anywhere, and when I say any sort of criticism, it's only sort of from a place of love, really, because if I didn't love the game, I didn't love and want the game to improve and the game to be the best it could, I would have just simply not played it and just moved on with my life. But because I want the game, I want the best for everyone in the community, I want everything. Just saying all my points on it. And yeah, I think we could just ask for a little bit more for the next one, especially in Ghent. And if Ghent is aiming to get a bigger turnout as well, I think there's 4,000 or something like that. I think we definitely should just be expecting and be asking for a little bit more from the game. But you know, it's still cool. I hope everyone's enjoying their store champs, and I'm going to be playing some of them as well. I hope the Play Hub works at my 16-person store champs this weekend. So thank you very much.